My golden child brother fell face first into the wedding cake I made, and I refused to help him. Our mom couldn't handle it and tried to ruin everything. I'm a 28-year-old woman who comes from a middle-class family in a small Midwestern town. My parents, Tom, 58M, and Linda, 56F, worked tirelessly to provide for us. Dad was a high school English teacher, and Mom worked as a nurse at the local hospital. They instilled in us the values of hard work and humility, always emphasizing that character matters more than material possessions. Growing up, our house was modest but filled with love. We had weekly game nights where we gathered around our old, scratched dining table to play board games. Mom would make her famous chocolate chip cookies, and Dad would regale us with stories from his teaching days. Those nights are some of my fondest childhood memories. My older brother, Jake, 32M, and I were close as kids. We'd spend hours building elaborate Lego structures or exploring the woods behind our house. Jake was always the leader in our adventures, his imagination running wild as he created fantastical stories about the magical creatures inhabiting our backyard. Things started to change when Jake entered high school. He was always bright, but in his freshman year, he really started to excel academically. His teachers praised his intelligence, and he began to win awards in various academic competitions. I was proud of him, but I also felt a growing shadow as Jake's achievements began to overshadow my own average performance. The real turning point came when Jake was offered a scholarship to Metter Academy, an elite private high school in the nearby city. It was a prestigious opportunity, one that our parents couldn't pass up. Despite the financial strain of additional expenses not covered by the scholarship, they took on extra shifts and cut back on expenses to make it work. From the moment Jake started at Meadowbrook, it was like he entered a different world. He made friends with kids from wealthy families, started using words we'd never heard before, and began to show disdain for our modest lifestyle. The first time he brought home a friend from school, I overheard him apologizing for our quaint house. I remember feeling a mix of embarrassment and anger. This was our home, the place where we'd made so many happy memories. As Jake's high school years progressed, the divide between us grew wider. He rarely joined our family game nights anymore, always claiming he had too much homework or plans with his new friends. When he did join us, he'd make snide comments about how provincial our traditions were. It hurt to see the brother I once idolized turning into someone I barely recognized. Despite the changes in Jake, our parents continued to praise his every achievement. They proudly told anyone who'd listen about Jake's perfect grades, his position as captain of the debate team, and the prestigious universities that were already showing interest in him. Meanwhile, my solid average in participation in the school choir barely seemed to register. I tried not to be resentful, throwing myself into my own interests. I joined the school's baking club and discovered a passion for creating delicious treats. The kitchen became my sanctuary, a place where I could express myself and feel proud of my accomplishments. Mom would sometimes join me, and those moments in the kitchen became our special bonding time. After high school, Jake got into an Ivy League university on the East Coast. The day his acceptance letter arrived, our parents threw a big celebration. They invited the whole extended family, and Jake basked in the attention. I remember standing in the corner of our living room, watching his relatives fawn over Jake, feeling invisible. I stayed local for college, attending the state university just an hour's drive from home. I worked part-time at a local bakery to help pay for my education and contribute to our household. Jake rarely came home during his college years, always claiming he was too busy with internships or networking events. When he did visit, he'd regale us with stories of his important connections and the luxurious lifestyle of his college friends. After college, Jake landed a job at a prestigious consulting firm in New York City. He moved into a sleek apartment in Manhattan, his life seeming more and more like something out of a glamorous TV show. Meanwhile, I had started working full-time at the bakery where I'd worked during college, slowly saving up money with a dream of opening my own place someday. Fast forward to now, I finally achieved my dream of opening my own small bakery in our hometown. It's been open for a year, and while it's not making me rich, it's doing well enough that I've been able to hire 2 part-time employees and even help our parents with some of their expenses. Mom and Dad have been supportive, often stopping by to sample new recipes or just to chat during slow afternoons. Jake, on the other hand, has continued to climb the corporate ladder. He's now a senior consultant, constantly posting on social media about his business class flights, fancy client dinners, and expensive watches. His visits home have become even rarer, and when he does come, he spends most of the time on his phone or complaining about how there's nothing to do in our backwater town. Last month, our cousin Amy, 25F, got married. Amy and I have always been close. She'd often join me in the kitchen during family gatherings, and we'd gossip while frosting cupcakes or kneading bread dough. When she asked me to make her wedding cake, I was honored and spent weeks perfecting the design. The wedding was a family event, held in the renovated barn of Amy's fiancé's family farm. It was a beautiful, rustic affair, with fairy lights strung across wooden beams and wildflowers in mason jars on every table. I arrived early to set up the cake and help with last-minute preparations. Jake showed up just before the ceremony, dressed in an expensive designer suit that looked comically out of place in the barn setting. Throughout the reception, he kept making loud comments about how quaint and folksy the wedding was, his voice dripping with condescension. I saw the hurt looks on Amy and her new husband's faces, but they were too polite to say anything. I tried to ignore Jake, focusing instead on celebrating Amy's special day. But things took a turn when Jake had a bit too much to drink. He started flirting aggressively with one of the bridesmaids, Sarah, 24F, who happened to be Amy's best friend since childhood. Sarah was clearly uncomfortable, trying to politely excuse herself, but Jake wouldn't take the hint. At one point, Jake stumbled and spilled his red wine all over his expensive white dress shirt and suit jacket. He started making a scene, loudly complaining about how much the suit cost and demanding that someone clean it for him. People were staring, and I could see Amy looking upset on what was supposed to be her perfect day. Part of me wanted to help Jake, to save him from embarrassing himself further and ruining Amy's wedding. But another part of me felt like he deserved to face the consequences of his actions for once. Now comment update to tag you on part 2.